Do you want to pass the Florida real estate exam on your first try? In this video, we'll review 20 real practice questions that focus on key federal and state laws you'll see on the state exam. You'll learn about FREC's authority, the administrative disciplinary process, fair housing rules, and Regulation Z and RESPA requirements. We'll also cover discrimination and steering, legal advertising practices, and landlord-tenant laws related to security deposits and notice periods. Each question is designed to help you understand how these laws apply in real-life situations so you can answer confidently on exam day. Remember, this is just a small preview of our complete Florida real estate exam review course, where we go in depth into every section of the exam. You can find the full course through the link in the description below. And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more lessons, tips, and strategies to help you pass on your first try. Let's get started. Question 61. Over which of the following does the FREC have jurisdiction? The FREC has jurisdiction only over brokers, not over title companies, not over attorneys, and not over sellers or property owners. Question 62. A licensee who has been sued receives a letter requiring them to appear before the administrative law judge and fails to attend the hearing regarding an administrative complaint. This disciplinary process falls under Section 120 of the Florida statutes. Keyword, disciplined. The correct answer is letter B, 120 Florida statutes. Question 63. In a court case where it is being decided who will receive the title to a foreclosed property, what document does the judge deliver to the buyer? The judge always issues the final judgment. That is the document given to the buyer. The final judgment. Question 64. A licensee who does not represent a significant threat to public welfare is subject to, in other words, what they did was not very serious, will receive a notice of non-compliance. Question 65. The person who files a complaint is called complainant, and that's it. That's the end of Chapter 6. Now we move into Chapter 7, which carries 4 points on the exam. Question 66. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 prohibits discrimination based on there are 7 protected classes, and age is not one of them. So, when you see any answer that includes age, that one is not correct. The correct answer then is letter C, because it's the only one that does not include age. Question 67. The main purpose of Regulation Z is to disclose the true cost of credit to consumers. Let's put it this way. Regulation Z equals cost of credit. And what represents that cost? APR, which stands for annual percentage rate, meaning the real cost of borrowing money. Question 68. Which of the following is not exempt from RESPA requirements? Remember, RESPA is the law that deals with closing costs. This law applies to almost all residential sales. In this case, the correct answer is a loan to purchase a new home in a subdivision. Letter C, because any loan for the purchase of a home, new or used, is covered under RESPA. Question 69. An African-American buyer walks into Broker A's office and asks to see homes in African-American neighborhoods. The broker informs the buyer that they will show homes without regard to the racial characteristics of the neighborhood. The buyer views homes in both African-American and Caucasian neighborhoods and becomes interested in 2 homes located in predominantly African-American areas. Is there any problem here? None. The broker acted correctly by showing properties everywhere. But the question says, if the broker had followed the buyer's initial instructions, that's where the issue begins. Here's a tip for this type of question. Whenever it's about discrimination, always choose the answer that includes the most severe penalties or consequences. In other words, the one that mentions violating both state and federal law, license suspension, fines, or any maximum disciplinary action. That's the correct answer. Between options A and B, whichever has the harsher penalties is the one you should pick. Question 70. A broker orders their sales associates to do something illegal. What should the sales associates do? They should refuse to follow the order and look for a new employer. Question 71. Which of the following transactions is exempt from RESPA requirements? Exempt means that it does not need to comply with RESPA requirements. A loan to finance the construction of a single-family home when the borrower already owns the lot where the house will be built. That's letter A. Question 72. A Methodist church operates a retirement home exclusively for its members. They do not admit anyone who is not a member of their church. Is that legal or not? Remember that religious organizations have certain exemptions under the Fair Housing Act. Therefore, this is not a violation of the Fair Housing Act. Correct answer, letter A. Question 73. You must memorize this one. Under Regulation Z, when must a potential borrower receive information about the cost of credit? At the time of the loan application or within 3 business days thereafter. That's letter D. Question 74. An African-American couple tells a licensee they want a house in an African-American neighborhood. What should the licensee assume? That the clients are referring to African-American architecture, if such a thing exists. So, remember this. Whenever you see the phrase African-American architecture, that's the correct answer. Question 75. Which of the following is generally covered under RESPA? A loan to purchase a single-family home. That's the one that complies with RESPA. Question 76. A buyer asks a sales associate to show them homes located in a neighborhood made up predominantly of a minority group. How should the sales associate respond? I cannot limit my showings to only one type of neighborhood, because showing properties only in certain neighborhoods based on race or ethnicity is considered steering, which is a violation of the Fair Housing Act. Question 77. When the landlord of a single-family home requests a security deposit from a tenant, which of the following statements is true regarding residential lease deposits? Let's recall what the law says. There are 3 legal ways for a landlord to handle tenant deposits. Keep the money in a separate non-interest-bearing account in a Florida bank. Keep the money in an interest-bearing account in a Florida bank and pay the tenant either 75% of the interest earned or 5% simple interest annually. If the landlord uses the money, they must pay the tenant 5% simple interest per year and post a surety bond, guarantee bond, with the clerk of the circuit court for the amount received or $50,000, whichever is less. Now the question asks, which statement is true? Landlords can keep the interest earned and return it at the end of the lease. No. All interest belongs to the tenant. No, only 75% belongs to the tenant. Landlords cannot mix tenants' deposits with their personal funds unless they post a proper surety bond. This is correct. That's the right answer. Question 78. Which federal law requires lenders to disclose various closing costs to potential buyers involved in a home purchase? Whenever you see a question about disclosing closing costs, the answer is always RESPA, the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. And here's how you remember it. RESPA equals closing costs. Regulation Z equals true cost of credit. APR. Question 79. If a landlord wants to combine a tenant's security deposits with their own money, what must they do? They must obtain a surety bond. That's letter A. Question 80. A landlord decides to make a damage claim against a tenant's security deposit. How many days does the landlord have to notify the tenant? 30 days. Memorize it. For any claim against a security deposit, the deadline is 30 days.